911, what is your emergency?
Units respond code 3 to a 1050 on the highway. Vehicles are blocking multiple
We're en route
lanes
to the
of travel.
hospital. Patient is currently having
We've got a
cardiac
4-alarm
arrest and has
fire
been
here.
intubated.
Send additional
Protesters are
trucks.
outside of City Hall and they are not complying with our
Out
orders
on 1,
to
hold the
disperse.
air.
In a rapidly changing world for first responders where it seems that every day the rules and norms are changing, there is one voice you can count on to give you the latest in emergency news. That is Lifeline. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 Podcast with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I am your co-host, Gary, and today we are going to be discussing Hollywood, how they get it wrong in terms of portraying emergency call centers and such. And Erica, I think that you have a show that you quite enjoy called Lone Star 911, do you not?
I absolutely love it. I actually like both of the 911s. Lone Star is the one, of course, it's based in Austin. And then the first one is 911, and that one is Los Angeles. Surprise, surprise. But I love both of those. They're so entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because basically, I've only seen about 3/4 of the first episode of Lone Star 911, but it basically is taking place in Austin as it goes over emergency responders such as police, fire, and EMS, right?
Yeah, it does. And the thing that is most entertaining about that one is there's so much Texas in it that is I don't know. There's a lot of cliche, for sure.
Sure.
There's a lot of stereotypes. You know, the one of the strongest characters. I can't think of his name right now, which is shameful because I love the show. But one of the main firefighters, he is as Texas and country as they get, but not in a bad way, as in like unintelligent. But it's very Texas. That's for absolutely sure. But in their defense, the 911 operator that they focus on, her name is Grace. And unlike a lot of shows, they actually portray her as a very smart and intelligent person, very skilled. So they get that right.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. She says a lot of things that you cannot say on a regular 911 line, and she's very personable, which is good. She's good at developing rapport immediately and reassuring the callers, which we absolutely do when we're on 911 calls if we can. I mean, I think she's a perfect mix of human and the job, for lack of a better way to put it. But I mean, it's not perfect. Because there are things, like I said, there's things that she says that there's absolutely no way we would get away with. If, you and I as supervisors, if we were monitoring some of her calls, we'd be like, no, you can't say that.
Gotta pull you off that call, sorry.
But it's not bad. I don't know, but for a long time, I dogged on any and all of these shows. I was so critical until one day I was watching one of them with my husband, and he reminded me, he says, babe, this is entertainment for the masses. The masses don't know what you do. And
Right.
If you showed them what you did in as sterile environment as you do it in every day, no one would watch it.
Just like any job, it's got its times where, it's busy and exciting, and then there are long periods of times where it's very mundane and repetitive, and that's not good good entertainment, good TV.
And you do TV type stuff, right? That's kind of your side. I don't know if it's a side hustle, but kind of another hobby that you have. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful. Is it a hobby or is it like another profession kind of thing? So you could probably speak to why they do some of that.
Yeah, I mean, like you want to, I'm part of a production company called Lead Feather Productions, and we when you make a show or anything, you have to kind of almost distill it down to its finest bits. So you want to, pull the pearls out of the mud, I guess, and find the exciting things that happen because watching somebody sit at their desk for 6 hours doing paperwork is not people don't really resonate to that. You need to have those exciting moments kind of pop out, and
Yes.
especially when you're doing like a long running show like Lone Star 911 or regular 911.
Yep.
Finding those exciting moments can get a little challenging, so you've got to kind of dramatize them a little bit more than they
Yes.
would be normally.
Yes. So, and actually thinking about that for anybody who might be listening, of course, those are in the profession, they know immediately what's reality and what isn't. For anybody that might be listening that is not in the biz, if you will, one of the things that typically drives me absolutely nuts is, and I'm sure you'll agree, is when you hear them say that someone can't be reported missing because they haven't been gone 24 hours.
Yeah, that's always a big one. I don't.
What is that?
Perhaps that was some law that came around a long, long time ago. Well, just like it might have been something that came around a long time ago, and it's just kind of stuck with the cultural. I don't want to say zeitgeist, but sort of the cultural mentality since then.
Yeah, I guess. But I would say it's actually very dangerous. I don't know how many friends and family through the years I've talked with, and they bring that up. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, absolutely not. There are things, I mean, in my 20 plus years, and in your 15, I would say, have we ever had that? We've never had that, right? We've never had a time frame.
No, not as a rule for us. We have had, I think, a lot of people that call in and they're like, I need to report this person missing. They've been gone for 24 hours. And you ask them, why did you wait so long? And they're like, well, I needed to wait 24 hours.
Like, no.
It's funny because like sometimes people in the real world will immediately call like about things that absolutely are not emergency. So like it'll be 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning or something, and they'll call and be like, "Oh yeah, I need to report my neighbor's fence he built his fence on my property," and
Yeah.
it's like. Okay, that's like not an emergency. And then the other times will be, yeah, I needed to wait 24 hours to report grandma missing. I mean,
And you're like,
she
what?
wandered off.
Yeah. You're like, what is that? And then you have, and not to make fun of the public, but it's just really interesting because I think Hollywood in its effort, or I guess the need to entertain, can inadvertently, I think they can plant seeds that don't necessarily need to be planted, and those are the ones that take absolute root, I think, like the
Yes.
24 hours.
I agree wholeheartedly because it's just, if somebody's like missing, especially if they're a high risk individual, like somebody that's elderly or a kid or dementia or some sort of health issue, the more time that passes between when you report them missing and when they've gone missing, the less likely a good outcome is.
Yes, and the harder it is for us to find. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have all kinds of, we have some things at our disposal, but they're not foolproof, and we rely heavily on the public's understanding or sense of urgency. Also, I think that will help us, or it can hinder us. It just depends on which way the wind is blowing that day.
Yeah, and it's especially if it's just kind of sticking on missing persons, like it's like getting the word out there to everybody in the community of like, hey, be on the lookout for this elderly person or whatever. Getting all those extra eyes out there earlier is always better. But yeah, I think that's one of the aspects that Hollywood kind of distorts from reality.
Yeah, and I think well, this one is not so much a life or death or even a safety thing, but it's just one of the things that makes me a little crazy. And our colleagues listening to this will absolutely agree. They have the coolest toys that you have ever seen. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
what? And I feel sometimes incredibly inadequate every time I watch Grace, or I think it's Maddie on the main 911, or even Halle Berry. I'm not upset with Halle. She is a she is an actress, and I cannot imagine doing that work. Nope, I'm good. And she had to prepare for that. But really, she went and found the serial killer.
Yeah, so the movie The Call is probably the most famous and focused movie that deals with police dispatching or 911 call taking, because Halle Berry plays a telecommunicator who works. I think she's in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like you go into the center with her and you see like what it looks like, and it's just like this futuristic kind of immaculate place. I think that movie came out like in 2000,
13.
like 13.
I just did a thing right before we went on, and I saw 2013 is when it came out.
Yeah, so I mean nowadays it's kind of lost some of like the futuristic aspect of it, but everything's very clean, everything's very organized, and like high tech, and it's like that's not 100% real to life. I mean, it does make it
Yeah.
look better. I mean, because like if you think about a movie like War Games, which is a fantastic movie with Matthew Broderick that came out in the 80s.
In the 80s, yep.
They there's this famous part of it when they're in I think it's Crystal Mountain, like NORAD,
Yeah.
and like there's big screens up on the board, and it's showing the nuclear missile launches and everything. The actual NORAD did not have those, so they just had like little computer monitors and smaller screens than that, and
Yeah.
that movie influenced NORAD to get big screens like that. So it's kind of interesting to see how the tail can wag the dog sometimes.
I like that. And you're right. It's very futuristic looking in some of those. And I notice that in those places, unlike our walls are padded in a lot of ways, because it's to
Like an insane
decrease.
asylum.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary, for sound, right? To
Oh,
create
yeah, sound, yeah.
and our ceilings are incredibly high to encourage acoustics and the ability to hear around the room. So we're like in a regular office, you want it not to be that. You want it to be that you hear what's going on in your little cubby, and only your little cubby, or your office. You have a door. Unlike us, we can literally hear, depending on the circumstances, we can hear clear across the room what's happening at fire or EMS or even the other police agency that is in the building with us. And that's so beneficial and so helpful, because there's times when you might be able to go, wait a minute, that sounds like the last call I had. And they even have a thing that happens like that in 911, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it even happens in the call, if I'm not mistaken. So when I know when we came in, it said, that we were going to focus on what they get wrong, but that is one of the things they actually get. They kind of get that right.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually kind of veered off a little bit. Where I started was they have it looking so sterile and so clean and very like these shiny floors. I have yet to see a center with shiny floors.
Yeah, I mean, because you're not going to have generally at most 911 centers, you're not going to have like the marble floors or the slate black floors. You're going to have
Yes.
whatever the cheap, easy to maintain, long lasting material is that it will do its job, but it's not necessarily aesthetically so much for looks, and just generally you're not going to have you know, these really, nice areas, because it's not really meant for the public. It's meant just for government employees to be in, so you don't need to waste that kind of money on that.
Yeah, and well, and it's about functionality
Yes,
because you
yes.
think about it, it's 24 hours a day, literally 24/7, and hundreds of people in the core 24 hours, at least in a center the size of ours. If you think about each shift and how many people are on each shift, that's another thing you rarely see in a lot of them. You really see it focused mainly on like one person, and it's much bigger than that. It's much
Yeah.
bigger than that, and people are constantly coming and going, and there's just very little quiet, I think.
hmm Which I think leads into another topic, would be the quiet room. So I believe in the call, um, she goes into her center's quiet room, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken.
Yep, she
Um,
does.
yeah, so basically, quiet rooms are just rooms where you can go into, and they're generally very dark, and kept cool. And
Hmm.
there's like a comfortable chair or a couch to sit on, and you kind of can just go in there to decompress.
Yeah.
And so, kind of going along with what you were saying earlier about things that they got right in Hollywood movies, you do have a room like that. And sometimes, if you're fortunate, you can have multiple ones, but where you
Yeah.
can just kind of go to work through whatever just happened to you.
And that is absolutely one of the things that they got right. I don't know that I've seen that on either of the 911 shows. I'm pretty current on them. It's just not clicking for me that I recall that, but they got that one wrong, and they also get another thing completely. I mean, did I say wrong? I meant right. Um, but another thing that they get right is the relationships between the field responders and the 911 call takers and dispatchers, right? And I
hmm
mean that on the personal level, that is very common. It is, but I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily because uh, where do you spend most of your time? At work.
Yeah,
Your dating pool is much smaller because, that's where everybody is. And you can
true.
relate. You can relate to each other. You can relate to the work that you do day in and day out. I think that helps.
Yeah,
Kind of
and
like hospitals.
yeah, it's also helpful to date people that are at the same level of crazy as you are. So it works out well. I think it's a nice little cycle.
And yes, the same level of crazy. I like that. So what you trying to say, Gary?
No, nothing, nothing. I'm just saying that you don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps.
It does help. I know I said it in the beginning, or maybe I said it just off air. I It took me a really long time to begin to appreciate the level of work that goes into creating those shows. And they are, if you watch the behind the scenes or you watch the interviews of the actors, a lot of times, they do the press, right? I think they
Mm-hmm.
have to do like a press thing where they go on all these interviews and shows, and they're talking about how they prepare. They go into centers and they spend time with us to attempt to represent us well. But
Right.
then, of course, the need to jazz it up and create entertainment value kind of waters that down, I think. And I think that's where we get so frustrated. But I think I was telling you, I was watching a whole, I think it's like 15 minutes worth of yeah, a backstory, background on the call. And I was watching Halle Berry sit there at a console, and they were literally giving her a tutorial on her reaction should be because this is how it really is. I was impressed by that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I was
mean,
really impressed by that.
yeah. The especially in a role like that, the authenticity is really important, because you want to be able to connect with the audience as an actress, but you also want to, as faithfully as possible, represent the profession you're in. So
Mm,
it's a challenging tight walk, I think, to walk sometimes, because you don't want to be too much on one side and too much on the other.
Yeah.
However, I will say there are some things in like the Call movie that they probably go a little more dramatic than otherwise they would.
What?
Um,
Like what?
like what? So if you haven't seen the movie, Halle Berry's character gets a call um, from this girl who's been kidnapped, and so she's on the phone trying to figure out where the girl is. It's a 11-year-old movie, so hashtag spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah,
But
true.
but
True.
she ends up leaving the center, uh, going away from the 911 phone to personally track down this girl that's been kidnapped.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can't remember like why she was kidnapped. I think she was like the daughter of somebody rich or something. But so she personally goes to rescue this girl that's been kidnapped, and like fighting with the kidnapper, and
Yeah.
that is not necessarily something that we'd want our call takers or dispatchers to do. I mean, I appreciate the effort. I like the enthusiasm. That's good
Yes.
energy. Keep that
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
But just going out there and like beating that guy to death with a tire iron or whatever she does, it's really like that's a little bit beyond the job description.
Just just a skosh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess like looking at it like from a movie perspective, it might have been boring or something to have her, just staying on the phone trying to locate the kid, and then like having police officers actually do the takedown and rescue.
Which is very much how it ends up being.
Yeah, and sometimes it even ends up being that like the phone will drop off or run out of battery, and then you as the person taking that call have no further contact with that.
Yes.
And like that might resolve minutes or hours or days later, and you don't really have any direct contact with that at all, which is again from a movie perspective would be really awful, because
Yeah.
the audience, you need closure. But
Yes. It would
I
be
think
very anticlimactic, if you will.
yeah, I mean, and it would be confusing to then leave her and then start following like a group of detectives or whatever. But that would be much more true to life, because uh, one person can't do the whole job, from start to finish. And one of the big things that you learn when you become a telecommunicator is that you're part of a team, a
Hmm.
very sometimes a smaller team, like in a small agency, or sometimes a very big team, like in LA or New York, where you might have tens of thousands of people working in your department. But
Yeah.
you're all part of a team, and need to work together in order to achieve the successful resolutions that you're looking for.
Oh, you know what? That makes me that I don't know why it just clicked to me, and I don't know why I didn't bring this up in the beginning. When we're talking about the call, and it's funny because they got it right by showing us what to do wrong. And in the beginning of the movie, she's got this young person on the phone, and there's an intruder, and the line
Oh yeah, yeah,
disconnects.
yeah. So
And
they're calling
yeah,
from a house phone, a landline.
no, it's a cell phone.
Is it?
Yeah, I just watched the clip. It's a cell
Okay.
phone. And yeah, because 2013, yeah, we had phones. It's hard to believe.
Did we have
2013.
phones back in
Yes,
those
we
days?
did. We
My
did. We had them.
goodness.
They were probably much, and I don't know what all they did, but
Could you get on the Facebook and the TikToks with them?
I don't know, not the Facebook or the TikTok or what was it? The MySpace.
The MySpace?
The MySpace. And I'm trying to think what else was there. Anyway, so the girl's underneath the bed. Oh, you know what? Spoiler again. Anyway, I'm not
This
going to say this.
this is the
How can
start of the movie, so it's okay.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, that's true. It does. I'm not giving away an end. So she's under the bed with her phone, and she's talking to Hallie's character, and the phone goes dead, and the intruder is in the house. Just
Bum, bum,
imagine it.
bum.
Bum, bum, bum. And the phone goes dead. And what does Hallie do? The thing you never do. And I'm sitting here watching this movie. I'm like, you better not call her back. You better not. You better
Yep.
not. Dang
Yep.
it, you called her back. Because she literally hits redial. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I think there's the shot of that where like her mouse is like hovering over redial and she's like debating whether to do it or something.
And
If I
I'm like,
recall.
no.
How does
Because
that turn out?
it does not go well.
Hmm.
The thing that you would imagine does not go well. And for any lay person that might be listening, that is no. It is a no, no, no. How many times can I say no before it becomes redundant? Just no.
Yeah.
That is the
Uh,
thing you do not do.
Absolutely. Like it's interesting because there's a couple of things in our profession that we tend to that we do, like rules and procedures and norms that we have. So like canceling a robbery call, like
Mm-hmm.
that's generally not allowed because if like the robber or the bad guy gets up to the shop owner and like puts a gun to his head, it's like, hey, call the cops back and tell them you're okay.
Yep.
You don't want to take that chance. So just things like that, like and in the movie, as I recall with Halle Berry, she didn't she get in trouble for doing that and like demoted or something,
Yes,
or
she
days
did.
off.
I don't know about, let me see. I don't think she was like suspended. I feel like maybe she was. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but no matter what, she does have a consequence. And part of that ends up being she's transferred to the training team, which is
Yes, I always
really
found that very amusing.
okay.
It's like you don't know
And
what you're doing, so train other people. Okay.
right. But if we're gonna be on the lighter side, we can also say she has firsthand knowledge and experience on what not to do. And
Yeah.
I bet I can only imagine in a training environment, she's like, okay, when this happens, here's what you absolutely do not do. And she probably, I can just imagine her going off on a tangent and, getting really, really animated. Do not ever, ever call him back because, right, you
End up
want to
on the
alert the
news.
back. Yeah, thank you. Or on the training team
Hmm.
as a result of your mistake.
Yeah, and it was it was an interesting movie in the sense that it, in a lot of ways, gets things correct. But if you are not familiar with like emergency call centers, just come in with the understanding that it's going to be very dramatized from what it actually is.
Yeah. And if you are our colleagues who have seen these shows or like Gary, I challenge you to get past more than 3/4 of one episode. I believe it'll change your life.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
you'll be entertained. Because if you look at it from an entertainment perspective and not so much of how wrong they get it, then you'll find yourself going, oh, okay, they actually didn't do a bad job on that. Or on this set of circumstances, because there's the one thing that they do. I think another way they get it right is the circumstances. A lot of the crazy you see on these shows and movies is born out of the reality that we have every day, because the calls can get absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, again, you've got a vast amount of calls that are very kind of just, you know, blase, we'll say,
Mm-hmm.
or,
Mm-hmm.
uh, routine. And then you've got
Routine.
those exceptional calls that sometimes are just like, you really gotta, they are dramatic in their own right, more than Hollywood could ever be.
That's very true, and they're probably watered down in a lot of ways because you want people to. Well, maybe not watered down. Maybe they're just shown in a light that is more for entertainment than shock value, because your average person, doesn't know that they can probably go in and visit their local 911 center and experience some of that firsthand. I mean, there are criteria and backgrounds and different things that you have to pass, but the average citizen does not know that their call center actually belongs to them, and they can come in and listen and find out just how realistic these shows are versus, you know, the entertainment value.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to touch on one other show. There's a show from the 60s called Adam 12.
Yep.
Um,
Me
that,
TV.
it's a great TV show, and it's probably of all the police shows that I've seen the most accurate to how things work. So it's, I guess by today's standards, you might consider it pretty boring and pretty slow paced, but it's really like done well, and like highlights, actual. It mainly focuses on the police side rather than like dispatching, but like every time the dispatcher gets on the radio, it's very even keel, very monotone. Like what Adam 12 respond to at 10:50 in the 200 block of blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
that sort of stability and routine is what you're looking for from your dispatchers. You don't want them to be getting excited or not paying attention. You want them just whenever somebody uses the radio to be right there and to be very even keel.
Yes, very, very yeah, you're right. The monotone, and just because the field responders, depending on what environment they're in or what kind of call they're responding to, their adrenaline is going and they're heightened. They're hyped up in response to what it is they're dealing with, and you need the person on the other end of the radio. And if we're talking about dispatch, then you need them to be at the very end of the other end of that spectrum. So one of the things that we try to tell our baby dispatchers is to, the higher they go, the lower you go. The louder they are, the more soft spoken you are, but not to the point of a whisper, of course. But yeah, you're
Right.
100% right.
Yeah, because they're going to be out there in the chaos. So having that like small, still voice that's consistently in their ear is very helpful to kind of give them a reality check and let them know, hey, I've got teammates on my side. So even though I might be in some fecal matter hitting the worldly blade situation, I've still got people coming to help me.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I'm sure you have, because we've been doing this a while, and we have many friends that are field responders. They'll tell you that the calm that we display when they're going through the crazy calls is a comfort to them.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many of them say it. You remain so calm, and then they'll even ask us, how do you do that? How do you stay so calm?
Nicotine. What?
What? But practice.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah, practice and understanding what your role is, and it is to be calm and give out that information.
Absolutely. Yes.
And you could even say, like, in terms of like the Hollywood style, like this podcast in and of itself is partially done for, I think, entertainment and informative value to the people that listen. But
yeah,
we, as you like to say, we always keep it real. It's not anything that's like, we don't have like dramatic music throughout the whole podcast or anything like that. Anything other than what I'm maybe singing. But it's we try and keep it very honest with how like true to life it is, and I hope people find it entertaining. I don't know, maybe we should spice it up a bit.
How would we do that? Yeah, how would we do that? We would have, I don't know, dramatic music.
Yeah.
Let me see. We could add video to of you dancing or something.
Yeah, that would definitely scar people for life, I think. And, that's what we're looking for here, because they'll remember that. But yeah, so the Hollywood, it's been a very interesting discussion because, we've kind of found out that Hollywood gets a lot of things right. They get some things wrong, of course, to pump it up for dramatic effect, but they do get a lot of things correct in how, police call takers and dispatchers and any sort of emergency call taker or dispatcher, how they function and operate.
Oh, you know what? And I almost forgot. There for a little bit, there was a show that was centered around us. They came into our center and actually filmed us doing the work. I mean, our 911 operators were really primarily focused, or were the focus of that show. And they actually got it incredibly right because it was right there. And it was more of was it kind of a documentary maybe type show?
Yeah. Overall, yeah. Because they would come in and they would sometimes have people walk into work several times to get the right angles and everything. But
They really?
But it was, it wasn't scripted per se.
That's it. Okay. And I do know every now and then they would ask. I remember one time that there was a producer who asked if we could do the call again, and we all looked at them like, I mean, no. What exactly do you mean, do it again? And that was, I guess, that was my first real introduction to the hype it up. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the desire or the need to add more drama to it, because they needed the operator to respond a certain way, to have a certain facial expression. And we had, if I remember correctly, I'm remembering this secondhand, but if I'm not mistaken, I think the supervisor in that situation was like, what exactly do you want her to do? We were thoroughly confused.
Right.
What?
How can you redo something that is a once in a lifetime thing?
Right.
I remember that they had, a lot of cameras up there, so I would, every once in a while try and just shoot a kind of The Office-esque look at the camera. I don't know if any of those shots ever made it, but
I don't think they did, Gary. I watched every episode and I do not recall any of that.
I tried my best to spice it up a little bit,
Yeah, it was Austin, I know Alaska, and I cannot remember. I feel like Atlanta or something like that. It's another major city was featured, but I do believe it was 3. Oh no, wait, it was New Orleans.
New Orleans, okay.
I'm almost sure it was Austin, and I can't not remember where in Alaska, but I'm almost certain that it was New Orleans. There might have been one other, and maybe that's where I'm getting the Atlanta from. I wonder if they'll ever bring that back.
Luke Wilson was. Oh, you know what? No, it was Luke Wilson was on.
It was him.
Yeah.
Yep. He had a fascination. He was very fascinated with what we do, and so he jumped at the opportunity to, I don't know, is it narrate or host?
Yeah, kind of host it. Yeah, but it was interesting because that was they were out here for a couple of weeks doing that.
Yeah, they were. It was American actor Luke Wilson.
Well, everyone, we appreciate you watching and hope you enjoyed our dive into what Hollywood gets right, I suppose.
I suppose wrong.
From all of us at Lifeline 911 Podcast, I'm Gary.
And I'm Erica.
And we will see you next week. Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911 Podcast. If you have any questions about the topics we discussed today, or if there's something specific you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us your questions at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Stay safe out there. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.